ABC, Barry Winslow, logging on. BC Cheers. Happy to be back on. I got a pretty decent sized vinyl update. It's been a few months since I've logged on to the vinyl community, but I wanted to get on and show, I guess over the last few months, a couple of things that I've dug up. Some things that I think are worth showing. And then also I wanted to kind of touch base on my master's degree. And crazy enough, I'm actually studying social media and participatory mobile culture. And I thought, man, how crazy is it that the vinyl community itself on YouTube, a social media site, fits perfectly into this assignment that I'm working on right now in my master's program. So I'm going to get into that a little bit later. Yeah, it's crazy how the vinyl community can actually be used in school as an example for a project for my class. So I'll get into that later, but first things first, let's get into some records. I want to show you just some things that I've picked up. Yeah, at like 4 or 5 different locations. I've got a pretty hefty stack of music here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain where I got these records from, kind of the situation around where I picked these things up. But I'm going to move kind of quickly through them just because I don't want this to be a super long video. But let's get right into it. First things first, what's playing in the background? We've got a really nice copy here of Dickie Betts and Great Southern, Atlanta's Burning Down. Dickie Betts obviously being one of the guitar players for the Allman Brothers Band. And this is some of the solo work here with his band Great Southern. If you haven't dug into Dickie Betts' solo work, do it. This is some really groovy Southern rock stuff. But Dickie Betts and Great Southern, this is called Atlanta's Burning Down in the background. Alright, so let's get right into it. This first stack is, I guess, the remaining stuff that I haven't covered from a previous vinyl update video that I made. I went to a record convention that I think I mentioned in my last video. I showed a whole bunch of records from that convention, and these are things that I went with my uncle to this convention, and these are things that I gave my uncle that he wanted to copy and put in his digital collection, from vinyl to digital. And I just got it back from him recently, so I want to show the stuff that I didn't get to in my last video. So this is from a record convention in Bay City, which is like a half-hour drive from me. This is a really cool convention. A ton of vendors showed up. There was a ton of great music, and I dug with my uncle there for quite a few hours, and spent a great day, a great afternoon of digging. And so I want to show what else was in that stack. So here we go. Starting right up is the Allman Brothers Band self-titled debut. Sorry, it's kind of dark in here. But there it is. I guess sticking right along with the Allman Brothers Band. This is their debut. Wonderful album. This is just a beautiful album, as you all know. So Allman Brothers Band self-titled debut album. Next up, we've got some Blood, Sweat, and Tears. This is Childish Father to the Man, an essential Blood, Sweat, and Tears album. Happy to have that in the collection. Up next, we've got what's called Super Session. This features Mike Bloomfield, Al Cooper, and Stephen Stills from Crosby, Stills, Nash Young. I haven't listened to this yet, but judging from the names on this, man, this has got to be a pretty cool album. Up next, the Byrds, Ballad of Easy Rider. A later Byrds release, probably the last of their great albums. Man, this is a cool album. Happy to have it in the collection. Came across it pretty cheap, and it's really clean too. So the Byrds, Ballad of Easy Rider. Up next, Ry Cooder, Bop Till You Drop. I love Ry Cooder. He's an excellent guitar player, and I think this is one of his essential works. I looked for the longest time for this. What a beautifully composed and recorded album. Definitely worth having in anyone's collection. If you like guitar, pick this one up. This is a beautiful album. Bop Till You Drop, Rycooter. We've got Crosby Nash. This is Whistling Down the Wire. Wouldn't say it's an essential piece, but this is a really cool album. It's pretty nonetheless. Some great music on here. And I mean, it's David Crosby and Graham Nash, my two favorite members of CSNY. This is a cool album. Happy to have it in the collection. Up next, we got Rock On by Humble Pie. Love the pie. Gotta love little Steve Marriott. So, Rock On, Humble Pie. Some later solo Joe Walsh. This is You Bought It, You Name It. A good album. I wouldn't say it's his best album. I wouldn't go any further in his catalog than this. But You Bought It, You Name It by Joe Walsh. I love Joe Walsh. It's Joe Walsh. I love his music. Here we've got a solo Roger McGuinn album. This I haven't listened to yet, but I would imagine this is pretty cool. Obviously, Roger McGuinn being a founding member of the Byrds. So Roger McGuinn. Some Todd Rundgren. Todd by Todd Rundgren. Really experimental, psychedelic pop album here by Todd Rundgren. Iconic album cover. This is Todd Rundgren at his most avant-garde. This is a really psychedelic pop album. This is a cool listen. Really trippy listen. Todd by Todd Rundgren. And the last in this stack is Atlanta Rhythm Section. This is Red Tape by Atlanta Rhythm Section. I've got some other ARS albums. Really great band. They're an awesome band. I don't think they got the recognition that they deserved. They had some awesome hits like Spooky back in the mid to late 70s. No big radio hits off of this album, but it's definitely a 3.5, 4-star album. This is a cool album. Atlanta Rhythm Section, Red Tape. So those were from the record convention in Bay City. Staying in Bay City, but this is just from a local record store that I try to frequent once I get over to that side of the area. Really nice owner that I've met. He's got a wonderful store. They just remodeled. They got a ton of records in there. And the prices are pretty reasonable for the stuff that he has. He doesn't carry a lot of junk. He knows what he's doing. He's got a great store. So these are from a record store called the Electric Kitsch in Bay City. So I'm going to show these next. This is the Byrds, Sweetheart of the Rodeo. I mean, this doesn't need a whole lot of introduction. Probably one of the greatest country rock albums of all time. The Byrds, Sweetheart of the Rodeo. Back to the Allman Brothers. This is their second album, Idlewild Self. Happy to have that. Up next, we have Andy Summers, guitarist for The Police, and Robert Fripp, so Summers and Fripp. This is called Bewitched. You wouldn't think that Andy Summers and Robert Fripp, from two very, I guess, kind of different musical backgrounds, would come together and make cool music. But man, this is some neat stuff. So Andy Summers and Robert Fripp, Bewitched. Kind of like a dark, guitar-based 80s synth experimental rock. It's cool. It's really cool stuff. Andy Summers and Robert Fripp. This is from a little earlier. This one's called I Advance Masked. I Advance Masked by Andy Summers and Robert Fripp. This is a cool album as well. So check it out. Andy Summers and Robert Fripp, if you come across some of their stuff for a few bucks, pick it up. It's some dark, eerie, ominous, at times funky, really like mechanized, industrial, dark rock music. It's worth a listen. We've got some ambient. This is Ricochet by Tangerine Dream. Sorry the lighting is so poor in here tonight. It's a little bit later and the lighting just isn't showing these records very well. But this is Ricochet by Tangerine Dream. I love Tangerine Dream. And we've got a double album here by Wishbone Ash. This is a live album. It's called Live Dates. As you all know, I'm a huge Wishbone Ash fan. And this one just about wraps up my collection for Wishbone Ash Live Dates. So moving on from there, I'm going to show a stack of records here that is from a recent dig that I went on a few weeks back with my uncle. We went down to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and man, Ann Arbor is a cool city, and they've got three or four just excellent record stores. I had a chance to check out 2 of them while I was down there, and I dug through these 2 stores for about 3.5, 4 hours with my uncle, and wound up really hitting the jackpot. Found some really cool stuff. Some stuff that I was really stoked to have in the collection. So these are from Ann Arbor record stores. First up, this is Van Morrison, Hard Nosed the Highway. Some later 70s Van Morrison. I tell you, I love Van. I really do. I love Van Morrison. I love his music. But it's this more obscure late 70s. It wasn't so, I hate to say Irish, but he wasn't so caught up in like the singer-songwriter, Irish, folky kind of, well, you know how Van is. This is a little bit more jazz and horn and progressive sounding, and I actually prefer this sound. This era of Van Morrison more than like Astral Weeks or St. Dominic's Preview. This is a really cool album, Hard Nosed the Highway. Definitely worth checking out. Check out Van Morrison's later work. This is really neat stuff. Late 70s. Van Morrison, Hard Nosed the Highway. Up next, here's an artist named Tonio K. Tonio K. T-O-N-I-O-K. If you haven't checked out this guy, man, this guy puts out some neat music. He was like kind of prolific in the, I would say 80s, throughout the 80s, more into like mid to late 80s. And this guy is just like a 80s rock, kind of like a singer, not even singer-songwriter. He's got like a little bit of Jackson Browne in him, but he's a lot more visceral. He's a little bit more hard-edged. And his lyrics are very literal. He's going to tell it the way that it is, whether you like it or not. And the guy lays down some awesome rock tracks. This is Tonio K. This album is called Notes from the Lost Curly Nation, I believe it is. Notes from the Lost Civilization. I couldn't read that text down there. Notes from the Lost Civilization by Tonio K. This guy's cool. Check him out. Here's another one. This one is a miniature LP. It's only got like 5 or 6 songs on it. This one's called La Bamba. Tonio K. La Bamba. Definitely a more obscure artist. If you come across him, pick him up. Check him out. He's neat. We've got the Water Boys. Really awesome band that was kind of more prolific in the 80s and 90s. This here is the C. They went from like 80s rock and did more. They've got like some Irish and Celtic sounds in them. Constantly changing throughout their career. I really enjoy this album. This is the C by the Water Boys. Happy to have some Water Boys in my collection. My first Water Boys album. Up next, we've got an artist that was really prolific in the United Kingdom, but really had hardly any success at all in the United States. And actually came across his name through a Led Zeppelin song. This is Roy Harper. So obviously, hats off to Roy Harper from Led Zeppelin 3 is kind of a nod to him from Jimmy Page. This guy was really good friends with Jimmy Page, and this guy does some incredible, kind of like psychedelic, acoustic folk guitar music. What a wonderful, wonderful kind of underground musician. Roy Harper. This is called When an Old Cricketer Leaves the Crease. Man, Roy Harper. I'm looking for an album of his called Stormcock. If you want to find an underrated gem of just like the most bombastic, beautiful, just slaying six-string acoustic, like take the sounds that you get on a Jimmy Page solo on Led Zeppelin 3 and add some folk, like UK folk musicality to it. That is so Roy Harper's sound. This guy is wonderful. So I came across this, and this actually features David Gilmour of Pink Floyd, Bill Bruford on drums with Yes and King Crimson, and it also has John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin on bass for a few tracks here. So there are some huge names that work with Roy Harper on this album. I want to get a closer shot of this. This is a wonderful album. Roy Harper, When an Old Cricketer Leaves the Crease. If you see some Roy Harper, pick him up. He's wonderful. Coming up next, I finally completed my Blodwyn Pig collection. They've only got 2 albums, but they're kind of hard to find. This is Blodwyn Pig Getting to This. Blodwyn Pig being an offshoot of Jethro Tull. Jethro Tull's first album, This Was. The original lineup of that album, or that circa era of the band, featured Mick Abrahams on guitar. And this is Mick Abrahams' band after he actually got fired from Jethro Tull. This is wonderful. Martin Barr came in and replaced him in later years. But Mick Abraham here, this is Blodwyn Pig Getting to This. This is a really, really great album. If you love Jethro Tull, you gotta check out Blodwyn Pig. And this is some excellent, excellent 70s rock music. Up next, we have Nils Lofgren's first band. This is Grin, self-titled. I love Nils Lofgren. What a wonderful guitar player. This is just hard guitar, Nils Lofgren, rock and roll. So this is just called Grin. And another Grin album. This one's called All Out. There's Nils on the back. Nils Lofgren's band, Grin. This is All Out. Man, did I ever find an awesome album. This is just like an underrated, excellent one-hit wonder. One album and gone. Just kind of like a lost masterpiece of a band. And I'm so happy to have found their album. This is Thunderclap Newman, Hollywood Dream. Gosh, so happy to have some Thunderclap Newman in my collection. Thunderclap Newman, Hollywood Dream. Obviously, their one-hit wonder was Something in the Air. It's just a beautiful song. So this is on that, on this album. Thunderclap Newman. This is the U.S. cover. I would love to find the U.K. cover. But this is Thunderclap Newman, Hollywood Dream. Got some old-fashioned country. We got Mel Tillis, Greatest Hits, very best of Mel Tillis and the Statesiders. I love Mel Tillis. Stuttering Mel. Gotta love some classic country. And then getting close to wrapping up my Byrds collection, I've got Turn, Turn, Turn by the Byrds, a really clean copy, an original press of Turn, Turn, Turn with just a few hairline scratches. This thing sounds wonderful. The Byrds, Turn, Turn, Turn. Flip this album over. All right, the next few albums I'm going to show. Here are a couple albums that are new albums from newer artists that I just wanted to get on vinyl because I love them so much. This first album I actually found in downtown Madison, Wisconsin. I was visiting some buddies that I hadn't seen in the longest time, and we were out one night, and I said, "Heck, there's a record store right around town." So I stopped off and came across a wonderful, wonderful album by a band that I am just, as of recent, and just literally addicted to. They have a wonderful sound. They've got some Dylan influence, some Bruce Springsteen influence. They've got some, I would say, like some Bruce Hornsby and the Range kind of influence. I hear a lot of Dire Straits influence in their music as well. This band's The War on Drugs. Man, what a beautiful, beautiful band. For a while, Kurt Vile was in this band. He left and kind of started a solo career. But man, The War on Drugs, this album came out in 2011. This is called Slave Ambient. If you haven't checked out The War on Drugs, I'm telling you, for today's music, this band is really pushing the boundaries. This band is putting out music that really should be getting played on the radio on a daily basis. Please. Someone just continue to play this band. They're wonderful. So happy to have this in the collection. I'm looking for their newest album called Lost in the Dream. Came out in 2014. In my opinion, it's the best album of 2014. I think it's excellent. This is The War on Drugs, Slave Ambient. Huge thumbs up. Excellent, excellent. And the next album I came across was in a record store in Marquette, in my old hometown up there in Marquette, Michigan, in the UP. Came across actually a brand new copy. Just opened it recently. In Rainbows by Radiohead. I've got the Bends, and now I have In Rainbows. I love Radiohead, and I actually just listened to their newest album, A Moon-Shaped Pool. Man, tell you, Tom York is up to some good stuff. This guy is always creating just wonderful music. Happy to have In Rainbows, probably my favorite Radiohead album on vinyl. All right, and we're down to the last of my stack here. These next two albums are two albums that I found at actually another record store in northern Lower Michigan that I don't get too often. It's just like a little coffee shop and record store in a little town called Grayling. And the guy usually has a lot of dollar bins, and you got to do a lot of thumbing through some dusty old records to find some gems. But I stopped in there probably about a month back, and I came across a couple of gems, and each of these were $1. So I was really happy to find these. The first of which is Bob Dylan, John Wesley Harding. This thing was really dusty. I cleaned it off. It plays excellent. Nice outer sleeve on it as well. Bob Dylan, John Wesley Harding. And to complete, I guess, really for me, what I wanted, or what I want of Bob Dylan, to complete his collection for me, I had to have this, and I didn't have it in my collection on vinyl. Here it is. Highway 61 Revisited. $1. This is a 1975 press. I think this is like the second or third press. So this isn't an original 1965 press. Actually, sorry, this is a 1968 press. I looked up the catalog numbers on it. It's got a little nick on the B side, but it plays outside of that little nick for about 20 seconds. This thing plays wonderful. Cleaned up the album. It's got a little bit of ring wear, but for $1, it's really nice to have Highway 61 Revisited by Bob Dylan in the collection. So there you have it. That's what I've picked up in the last, I'd say, 2 to 3 months, on top of the things that I kind of showed you in my last video. So I wanted to show you that, and then getting on to my next topic here. I am studying social media right now in one of my classes, in my summer class that I'm actually in right now. It's called Cultural Issues in Emerging Technology. And I'm learning a lot about how we use social media and blog sites, and how social media is really changing our day-to-day basis, how we live on a day-to-day basis. And it's changing the educational world, it's changing the professional world, and it changes the way that we communicate with people, just like we do through the VC. So I'm just wanted to ask a few questions out to the VC. I'm going to be featuring the participatory culture. So when we say participatory culture, that's any type of media culture that we participate in, like Facebook postings or YouTube videos. It's a way that people participate on their own terms in some type of communication through new technology, through new media, just like YouTube. So I wanted to do a little shout out to the VC. I'm going to be doing a project around the vinyl community and around YouTube talking about participatory culture and new technology and social media. But I wanted to shout out and just ask a few questions to the vinyl community. If you want to just drop a comment below and just respond to this, it's up to you, but I'd love to hear your responses. VC members, what do you think about participatory culture and new technologies and the way that it's changing the way that we live today? And also, when we're talking about participatory cultures, it really has to come down to sharing something that is special, something that is meaningful to us. And boy, if that's not evident, it's got to come down to music for us. And I guess specifically vinyl, since it is the vinyl community. I know there's a lot of cassette collectors, some 8-track collectors, reel-to-reel. There's so many great folks out there with the different things that they enjoy when it's music-based in the vinyl community. Or for me, it's vinyl. But I just wanted to kind of ask out there, what are your own opinions on social media and how it has kind of infiltrated and affected our day-to-day life? So if you just want to just provide me with some of your own words, I'd love to hear your comments, and share a little bit too about why you feel, what is so special? What is the one special thing about the vinyl community and this participatory culture to you? What makes you want to wake up and or before you go to bed, log on to the VC and share a few words and share some music with others? What is the one motive? What drives you to do those videos? Why do you enjoy the VC? And how do you feel social media is kind of changing the way that we live on a day-to-day basis? So if you just want to drop a comment below, I'd love to use your words somehow, take your words and put them into my college project. I'd love to hear from you. It's great to log on. Hi everyone, everything's well here in Michigan. Happy to be collecting some great music. I'm going to file these all away, put them in the collection for later listens. I just wanted to log on, say hi, VC cheers, and yeah, see you guys later. I'll be hopefully on here soon with another vinyl update, and so happy to be on the VC. All right, take care, guys. Have a good one.